They say, wow, look at that evolution theory. It's perfectly fine. There's no challenge to evolution. Look, he never looked better. Pulse and heart rate look good. No, I'm sorry. He's a goner, okay? Don't be the last one off the boat. It is sinking. Evolution is based on two faulty assumptions. Number one, they say mutations make something new. That's never been observed. Number two, natural selection makes it survive and take over the population. Evolution is actually a religion of death. In order for evolution to work, one animal evolves a little better than the rest. What must happen to the rest of them to make this thing work? They got to die. Or else the new improved gene is swamped back into the gene code. The question is so simple and profound. Did man bring death into the world like the Bible says? Or did death bring man into the world like evolution says? Somebody is wrong. Textbook says there are mutations, and they are the original source of variation in populations. I agree, mutations happen. No question. But mutations do not produce any evolution. Mutations are scrambling up existing genetic code. They're not making anything new. There's a five-legged bull. That's a mutant. There's no new information added. He already had the information on how to make a leg. It just made one in the wrong place, that's all. It's not new information. It is scrambled information. Here's a short-legged sheep. Again, no new information. And by the way, that's not beneficial. He's the first one the wolf is going to catch. Right? Go, boys, go. Here comes the wolf. Oh, Herman didn't make it. There's a two-headed lamb. That's a mutant. It's not beneficial. Two-headed turtle. That's a mutant. Not ninja, but it's mutant. Okay. Now, he's going to freeze first winter because nobody makes a double-neck turtleneck sweater. He's just not going to make it. Now, scrambling up the letters of the word Christmas will get you all sorts of different words. But it will never get you Xerox, zebra, or queen. The letters aren't available. This textbook shows the kids a four-wing fly, which, by the way, cannot fly. And it says, boys and girls, normal fruit flies have two wings. This mutant has four. This rare mutation, like most mutations, is harmful. And then it says, beneficial mutations are the raw material for natural selection. No, hold on a minute. Why don't they show us an example of a beneficial mutation? Why did they tell us about the good ones and not show us a picture of a good one? You know why they didn't show a picture of a good mutation? Because nobody's ever seen one. There's never been one beneficial mutation. I said that in a debate one time, and this atheist said, Hovind, you're lying. He said, I can name a beneficial mutation right now. He said, people in Africa that get sickle cell anemia are less likely to get malaria. I said, that's brilliant, sir. That's like saying if you cut off your legs, you can't get athlete's foot. They're both negative, okay? Then they say evolution and natural selection go together. This one says natural selection causes evolution. That's a lie. Natural selection selects. It doesn't create anything. Natural selection is not a creative force, okay? Natural selection may be a stabilizing force, but it is not a creative force. Anybody with half a brain can figure that out. Natural selection cannot create any properties. It can only select. This textbook says, evolution by natural selection had occurred in just 1 year. Oh, they're lying. It says natural selection can lead to evolution. That's a lie. Natural selection selects. It doesn't create a thing. If you worked in a factory that made cars, how far is the Saturn plant from here? Pretty close, isn't it? How many of you work? Anybody here work in the Saturn plant? Okay. Suppose you worked in quality control. Your job was to check the car when they got done building it, kick the tires, slam the doors, and drive it around. See if it runs. If you caught every single mistake, they don't, by the way, but if you did, okay, how long would it take that quality control process to change the car to an airplane? You say, Hovind, quality control can't change it to something else. Oh, I know. Only design engineers can change it. And God's natural selection is a quality control that will never change it to a different animal. It'll just make sure you get a good animal, that's all. They keep talking about survival of the fittest. Well, I agree, but that doesn't explain arrival of the fittest. And even survival of the fittest is pretty shaky. It's what's called a tautology, a sentence that means nothing. I'll show you. If you say, Professor, why did it survive? It's, oh, because it's the fittest, survival of the fittest. How do you know it's the fittest? Because it survived. How else can you tell? Oh, I see. Look, if a whale goes through a school of fish and eats 80% of them, It's not survival of the fittest. It's actually survival of the luckiest. That's what's really going on out there. But some of these scientists have the ability to make amazing observations and still come to the wrong conclusion. One day a bunch of scientists were going to see how far a frog could jump. They put their big old frog down there and said, "Jump, frog, jump." That frog jumped 80 inches. They brought the frog back, cut off one leg. Said, "Jump, frog, jump." He only jumped 70. They brought him back, cut off another leg. Said, "Jump, frog, jump." He went 60. They brought him back, cut off another leg. Said, "Jump, frog, jump." He jumped 50 inches. They brought the frog back, cut off his last leg, and said, "Jump, frog, jump." You know, they expected he might go maybe, 40 based on the data. Actual jump was 0. The frog didn't move. They yelled louder, "Jump, frog!" The frog never moved. The scientists were baffled. They tried the experiment again. New frog. Got the same results every time. So the brilliant scientists put their data together and said, "You know what, folks? The frog jumped less as the legs were removed." Hey, that's a good observation. They got it right on the head. And they said, "So we must conclude that a frog with no legs goes deaf." Bad conclusion. It's possible to have a good observation and still come to the wrong conclusion, you know. That's what they did with the fruit flies. They put them flies in the laboratory. They nuked them, microwaved them, x-rayed them. They did all kinds of mean things to those flies, and they got some weird-looking baby flies. They got flies with curled wings. They fly around, buzz, zzz, 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 couldn't go anywhere. They got flies with no wings at all. What do you call that? A crawl or a walk? Can't fly. They raised all these mutated flies in the laboratory and said, "You know what, folks? Fruit flies refuse to become anything but fruit flies." Well, duh. So they said all mutations produce flies that were inferior to the original fly. Good observation. They said, so we must conclude that flies have evolved as far as they can go. Oh, bad conclusion. You know, maybe you could conclude that God made them right to begin with, and all you're doing is messing them up in your laboratory. They were doing fine till you guys got a hold of them. Yeah. And they say evolution's as fit as ever. Yep, fruit flies in the north have wings 4% larger than flies in the south. Well, that proves something to somebody somewhere, I'm sure. But it's still a fly, okay? Then they tell the kids, the peppered moth is proof for evolution. They counted the moths on the trees and found it was 95% light colored and 5% black. Then they burned coal in the factories and the trees turned black. And they counted the moths again. It was only 5% light and 95% black. The problem is the entire story is a lie. They glued dead moths to the tree to take that picture for your kid's textbook. It's right here. Where's this book used at, brother? It's not used anymore. Peppered moth. It's still in the new books, though. Evidence for evolution. Those are dead moths glued on a tree, because after 40 years of watching, they found a grand total of 2 moths on the trees. 2 out of, let's see, what's 95% of 2? Wow. I have to do some figuring on that one. They still keep it in the textbooks, though, as evidence for evolution. What's the Tulsa Zoo doing having a peppered moth display? I mean, this is a zoo, for heaven's sake. Why do they push evolution in a zoo? Get the book Icons of Evolution if you want a whole lot more on the history of this peppered moth idea. But they tell the kids, we're going to learn to think critically. Boys and girls, do you think humans are still evolving? What kind of question is that? That's one of those questions like, have you stopped beating your wife yet? Wow, let me think. If I say yes, I'm admitting I did. If I say no, I'm still doing it. Did you know it's possible for the question to already have a built-in assumption? Look at that question. Do you think humans are still evolving? What's the built-in assumption? That humans evolved. Now, how's a Christian kid supposed to answer that for homework for Monday? I would say, teacher, this question is poorly written. It assumes evolution has happened when it has not. It's like asking the question, why are elephants orange? Boy, no, there's a tough one. Why are they orange anyway? They're not orange? This is not learning to think critically. This is a Soviet-style indoctrination-type brainwashing question. And when the kid gets done taking this class, he's going to think he knows how to think. But he doesn't. He knows how to be told what to believe, and he